Highlands visit continues.
I encourage you to stand firm as electoral officials.
Communities march against crimes. And record attempt stalls.
We haven't had any money since we left Papua New Guinea.
This is National MTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and thank you for joining me for Tuesday's news. The Interdepartment Election Committee, or IDEC, has begun its visit to the Highlands region. Chairman of IDEC and Chief Secretary to Government Isaac Lupari says the visit is to make sure polling and counting is trouble-free and the whole process of election is carried out in a cost-effective manner. Lupari said IDEC's main objective is to achieve a free, safe and fair election throughout the country.
With less than 7 days left before polling to begin, the IDEC team commenced its visit to the Highlands region, beginning with Hela province. IDEC's prime objective is to see the smooth flow of the 2017 national elections in the 7 Highlands provinces. The IDEC team met with Hela election manager John Tipper, returning officers, assistant returning officers, head of local police and the provincial election steering committee members. And with the overwhelming critics surrounding the conduct of the elections, IDEC Chairman Isaac Lupari says those involved will play a critical role.
My belief is that all of us have to work together. We must go out and do our job in a very honest and transparent way so that people can believe Lo Yumi. The leader Yumi mark him too, people mark him. But people can believe Lo too, that that person has been elected in an honest, transparent, proper way.
The 2017 national elections has many challenges and changes in the process. The Electoral Commissioner says IDEC's visit is to provide confidence to election officials when carrying out their responsibilities.
Let's make this election trouble-free. And that's the purpose and the reason why we are coming here, to address you and encourage you to stand firm as electoral officials, as returning officers and assistant returning officers, that you be diligent, be honest and fair in ensuring that we deliver a free, fair and safe election.
A funding of 400 million was budgeted by the government for the 2017 elections. 121 million is for security operations, while the rest is for the whole election process. The head of police and PNG Defence Force say resources and manpower has been allocated and the response unit will deal with any hiccups in the election process.
We're not going to redirect the resources to go and do something else and move away from the concept of operations which we detail in a sense that we have to support you. All right? So having that in mind, that there are risks associated with it, our job is also to try as much as possible, stabilize it, and allow the elections to go.
And we want to prove the critics wrong, that no, we will deliver an election that is free, fair, and our people can be proud of.
A similar meeting was held on the same day in Southern Highlands capital, Mendi. Jack Lopava Jr., National MTV News, Mount Hagen.
The electoral and police commissioners have both said they are happy with polling preparations with just 2 days to go. Electoral Commissioner Patilius Gamato met with electoral officers in Hela and the Southern Highlands yesterday. Both men also expect to meet with electoral officers in Hagen tonight.
The bulk of security operations are now concentrated in the Highlands. That's where police intelligence indicates possible trouble spots. Traveling to Mount Hagen yesterday, there were at least 5 roadblocks between the Eastern Highlands and the Western Highlands. Police searched for guns, drugs and any offensive weapon that could contribute to election violence. In Hela and the Southern Highlands, where a lot of guns have been brought into communities, police focus has been more on containment during the election period.
Let me put it this way. We are very well informed of people that have, particularly in Hela, that have not surrendered those weapons. We know they are around. These are risks that every elections we face, and these are risks that we take on and we mitigate as we go into the elections process.
Additional PNG Defence Force personnel have been put on standby. The police commissioner says they won't be called in for general security duties unless tensions escalate. Yesterday, the police commissioner and the electoral commissioner were in Hela and the Southern Highlands with a team led by the chief secretary. The Electoral Commissioner, meanwhile, is happy with the discussions with electoral officers and the progress they've made towards polling.
So our message to the electoral officials is that you must do things properly, do it diligently, honestly, so that we provide that electoral service to the people. People can have access to it and vote.
I am very encouraged in what I've saw in Hela, despite that, there is politics.
But concerns over the one-day polling and the absence of names on the electoral roll remain. It is a concern that's been raised by election managers all over the country.
So we released about 850,000 papers across the country. We cannot go beyond that, because if we do that, then we will still have inflated roll. We still have names, some ghost names on the roll. Our roll is still inflated. I can say that.
Scott Waide, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
3 more days before the polling begins, and the Provincial Police Commander of Western Highlands, Chief Superintendent Martin Lakari, is reminding candidates and their supporters to refrain from doing anything illegal. Ballot boxes have also arrived in Mount Hagen since last Friday, and security is very tight in the province. Vasanatayama files this report in Mount Hagen.
Ballot boxes for the Highlands region have arrived from Port Moresby last Friday and have been dispatched to the 7 Highlands provinces. For Mount Hagen, PPC Lakari says police, PNGDF and Correctional Service have been guarding the boxes 24 hours a day. Security in the province has tightened up since the arrival of the ballot boxes.
Police are still walking around the clock. They are concentrating on those arms and ammunition in the vehicles. They're chasing all the moving vehicles on random, and also conducting down raids, basing on the intel that we have in hand, and there's no arrest as yet.
Lakari is urging supporters of each candidate to refrain from doing anything illegal during the polling or counting. At least 900 police personnel from other provinces are in Mount Hagen to run the election. Many of them will be sent into the districts and electorates to ensure this election is not being intimidated. The security forces have started holding roadblocks in and out of the city to ensure no one is carrying gun or ammunition. Lakari said that if anyone is found to be in possession of an unlicensed firearm, they will be charged with no police bail and locked up until after the election.
Experiences have shown that the nearby communities normally come into town to interfere and to disturb the town community. So I urge the nearby communities of people of, say, Mount Hagen Open Electorate and any other open electorates to respect the public servants.
PPC Lakari is warning the candidates and their supporters not to intimidate or threaten the electoral officers or voters. He said the security forces and the law will come hard on those who will be doing this. Vasanatayama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
Manos police and election officials have ruled out allegations that 7 ballot boxes with filled ballot papers were stored away and ready for counting. Manos Police Commander Chief Inspector David Yapu confirmed that those rumors were misleading and are not true. Yapu explained that all election materials, including ballot papers, are safely stored in a container at the Loringa police station in preparations for polling. Meanwhile, an investigation team was set up to look into election-related crimes, and PPC Yapu has encouraged people in Manos to report election-related incidents. Electoral Commissioner Patilius Gamato has issued a strong warning for campaign to stop on 23rd June midnight. Gamato says candidates must adhere to this. He has also announced that counting will begin 2 days after polling.
Okay, so we will allow counting to start at least 2 days after polling completes, so that there is a process that continues. I have a set time to deliver the return the rich back to the head of state, and that's on the 24th of July. So that date may not be sufficient, especially for big electorates like Port Moresby. and in some parts of the country. So I'm allowing 2 days straight after polling for the returning officers and the election managers to organize themselves, and then they go straight into counting. So the counting starts from there.
Prime Minister Peter ONeill has promised the people of Menyamia in the Morbek province better roads during his visit to the district yesterday in support of PNC candidate for Menyamia Open Benjamin Philip. The rally was held at the Menyamia station where hundreds of people gathered for the event.
The Menyamia station began flooding with supporters of the PNC party as they awaited the arrival of the party leader and Prime Minister Peter ONeill. Crowds of people with placards lined the arena dressed in red and yellow, displaying pictures of PNC's candidate for Menyamia Open, Benjamin Philip. A man who ONeill says the people of Menyamia should support because he is no stranger in the political scene. ONeill told the people that the PNC party's policies of free health and education are in its infant stages, and a change in government would disrupt its growth.
Free education even strong yet. Free healthcare even strong yet. Suppose tomorrow one black government go inside and by changing by you go back low where by you finding school fee blow beginning.
The Menyamia district and its people have suffered from deteriorating road conditions, a problem that has been in the past and continues to be till date. ONeill promised to work closely with Benjamin Philip to fix and build roads into the Menyamia district if they are re-elected.
Me sawelo penblo you. Me sawelo penblo you. Road name number one something. Me sawelo penblo you. Me no nabla promise you plan something.
Lucy Kopana, National EMTV News, Leh.
Among stories after the break, thousands protest against criminal elements in Madang, more opposition to the deportation of missionary Doug Tennant, and the adventures of Thor in PNG. Stay with us. Welcome back. 9 men accused of producing homebrew in Ward 14 of Lorengau Town have been released on 300 kina each police bail. The 9 were arrested during the Joint Task Force security operation in Manos. Following their arrests, the men surrendered items that were allegedly used in producing homebrew. The 9 accused appeared before Lorengau District Court yesterday. Manos Police Commander Chief Inspector David Yapu commended Ward Councillor Riley McInau for assisting police with arrests. As head of the joint operation in the province Manos, Yapu said he wants to ensure the national elections are safely conducted in Manos. More than 1,000 people from communities in Madang staged a peaceful march demanding authorities to address criminal activities in the province. In a 2-page petition, they called on the police hierarchy to put an end to armed robberies and petty crimes. Last month, a woman and her son were attacked along the Bayonne Road by a number of armed criminals. This is one of several incidents committed by criminals that have prompted the people to stage a protest march this morning.
At 10 o'clock this morning, people from the 3 communities gathered at the Laiwaden Oval. They had with them posters and charts. They demanded an end to armed robberies and the petty crimes that have been committed by criminals from the nearby settlements. Police escorted them as they walked to the Jomba police station to present their petition to the provincial police commander, Jacob Singura, and the provincial administrator, Daniel Aloy.
Hasting thing when now we black amlo and we black hasting government lo mas something must stop. We black election kupla blongan na we black must come. Esa ra papa ground lo des la town, papa ground lo medeng. We black no been got this before in a long time. This bla settlement is road lo ini. Bagara poklo come up. Become now we less finish.
Between the months of May and June, there were at least 6 armed robberies being committed by criminals. Last month, a number of armed criminals held up a vehicle where a woman and her son were attacked. She is currently admitted at the Modilon Hospital receiving treatment. This recent incident is one of several that have provoked the locals to stage this peaceful march.
Criminals have been hold up the road, the one bus blowing me vision. Now even cutting me black, long night, na cutting one blow mama now and start house sick. This plan now behind him, we black come up, this starting to swim, come on blowing me or something. This is a person who don't like them must stop.
The points on the petition must be met within 7 days, effective today. They say if the government fails to meet the demands, they will shut off the water supply to the town area and block road access to Buimo jail.
It's the damage inside this road. Even though people stop inside the Bell Blow Meeting town, but no got is.
A correctional officer says a portion of land and a number of houses are available for police to be stationed there to combat crime in that area. PPC Superintendent Jacob Singura and the provincial administrator were there to receive the petition. Singura says police officers and logistics will be made available to assist them minimize criminal activities in the area.
Provided you got house stop, make and give policeman a car by sleep hub. And that's why we can talk to you immediately. I'll start work on it. All right. Narabla something ask him. Aram got. Narabla big plus him. He na PA ba mitlan na blo make him samla decision longen. I'm something blogo through lo government.
Mataluis National EMTV News, Medang.
The Catholic Professional Society is appealing to sitting MPs of East New Britain to make known their stance on the deportation of lay missionary Doug Tennant. President Paul Hagen said the Catholic Church continues to play an important role in developing East New Britain and the government must intervene as the issues surrounding Tennant's deportation are serious.
After a week of Tennant's deportation, the Catholic Professional Society has come out saying the sudden expulsion raises eyebrows to whether it was politically supported. They say since Tennant was deported on the 12th of July, there has been no statement from sitting East New Britain MPs on the matter.
The Church, the Catholic Church and other churches, but the Catholic Church in particular, and in this case, is a major contributor to development matters in the province. And we are surprised that our political leaders have not expressed their views on the deportation of Doug Tennant.
Doug Tennant was working as an administrator with the Archdiocese of Rabaul when landowners of East Pomio approached the church for assistance in land matters. He provided legal advice on these matters. He was deported after he was said to have breached his religious worker visa.
We find it a bit surprising, and we want to call out Mr. Kanta to explain and make clear what was the real reason for the deportation of Doug Tennant.
Prominent lawyer and former legal advisor to the Foreign Affairs Department, Camillus Narokobi, slammed the Immigration Office for not giving a fair review of Tennant's case.
The review committee should make a decision whether the deportation was correct or not. If it is not correct, then it should be revoked and it should be returned to Papua New Guinea.
They have also appealed to the landowners to come clear on their stance and not to submit to other interests.
They have to stand their ground. If they want to fight an issue, they have to stand their ground. This is not the Archdiocese's fight. This is the fight of the landowners themselves. It wasn't initiated by the Archdiocese to go in and probe into the project and try to bring out any threat against the company. It was the people themselves who found that they couldn't express freely and openly on the project site or even with the government, so they approached the church.
Stanley Over Jr., National EMTV News.
Plans are in place for the construction of a maternity ward at the Porgera Urban Health Clinic. This will save the trouble of expectant mothers who travel the long distance to Wabeg town to deliver their babies. This comes as the Porgera joint venture recently donated building materials to the health clinic located at the Porgera station.
In late May of this year, the Porgera joint venture donated building materials to the staff of the Porgera Urban Health Clinic. These include a tougher tank, paint, plywood, cement and other building materials for the construction of the maternity ward. The items were received by Health Extension Officer in charge, Jerry Maku, who says they have not been able to treat expectant mothers because of the lack of a suitable facility.
Plan the old mama only come no deliver long here. That's what me plan of delivery work. Me just thank you long. Management RM this request Lumina you come in a fast way. Me appreciate it.
Marcus says the ward will be beneficial for the local community as they have been referring patients to Wabeg, which is an estimated 100 kilometers from Porgera. The items were distributed by PJV Community Relations and Engagement Alternate Manager Mac Minala, representing the management and PJV partners. This donation is a partnership where the building materials are supplied by PJV and government agencies provide the skilled labor for construction. Merlin Diaukatam, National EMTV News.
A Danish filmmaker and adventurer accompanied by two Papua New Guinean sailors on a quest to film their voyage around New Guinea has stopped due to lack of funding from sponsors. The West Sepik governor promised the crew for an undisclosed amount of money, but it hasn't been paid. The aim of the trip was to promote PNG as a tourism destination and break a world record.
Imagine traveling around the whole island of New Guinea on a semi-traditional sailing boat, and each step of the way being filmed and photographed on cell phones, taking documentary to a whole new level. It isn't something for the faint-hearted. In this sailboat, complete with expert sailors from Milne Bay, brothers Sanakoli and Justin John from Tawali Island. In rare footage given to MTV, Danish filmmaker and adventurer Thor Jansen shows the thrills of chasing a world record circumnavigating New Guinea, the second largest island in the world.
It started with a dream. When I was a kid, I saw these black and white movies from the Highlands.
Life on the high seas, crossing over into Indonesia in the middle of the monsoon weather. Practically living on the sailboat, exposed to the elements, only going on to land to get dry and drink a coffee. An adventure of epic proportions, but they are facing challenges now. Thor and his two companions are in Port Moresby because lack of funding.
Yeah, just to be able to continue because we have no more money left. We haven't had any money since we left Papua New Guinea actually, and it's only thanks to a very loyal community on Facebook that's been giving us donations. So every month we've been able to continue, buy food, send money home to the families in Milne Bay, and also buy insurances and replace broken equipment.
Their journey started in Tawali last year and was supposed to be completed by August this year. They've shelved the quest because one of their sponsors, the West Sepik provincial government, hasn't paid them money promised by the governor. While the Milne Bay Tourism Authority has done its part, they still need more help to complete the journey and the filming. Thor Jansen says the aim of the quest was to put Papua New Guinea on the world map in a whole new light.
The stories you get from PNG in the Western media are very, like sensationalism. It's all about violence and cannibals and But there's much more to it. You know, it's a very unique island, very unique environment, so many unique cultures. So I came here also in the hope to, of course, learn more about the cultures, but also tell a positive story about Papua New Guinea.
They've already gone past the halfway mark, gone around Indonesia and onto Fak Island. But because of the funding delays and very strong southeasterly winds, they've shelved the quest. For now, the trio are in good spirits back on land for some well-deserved rest.
It's very hard to keep your arm.
Led by Thor, they are in Port Moresby hoping for funding and waiting for the winds to subside before they complete the circumnavigation and put Papua New Guinea on the world map as a friendly tourism destination.
We need to get one of these.
Bethany Harriman, National EMTV News.
And now looking at our finance news, the kina closed unchanged at $0.3145 in the interbank markets. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.307, $0.4012 Australian dollars, $0.2722 euro and 33.96 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, cocoa closed lower while gold, coffee and copra closed the day higher. Palm oil and crude oil closed lower while copper closed the day higher. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 144.71 points higher, the ASX closed at 47.87 points lower, and the All Ordinaries closed at 43.22 points lower. Stories making headlines overseas when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas, the American student who arrived home in a coma after being released from detention in North Korea has died. U.S. President Donald Trump also offered his condolences to Otto Warmbier's family.
Carried off the plane in a motionless and unresponsive state, Otto Warmbier had finally made it home to his family in Cincinnati after spending more than 15 months in a North Korean prison.
And I knelt down by his side and I hugged him and I told him I missed him and I was so glad that he made it home.
But today his family announced the 22-year-old has died. In a statement, they said, "Unfortunately, the awful, torturous mistreatment our son received at the hands of the North Koreans ensured that no other outcome was possible beyond the sad one we experienced today." Otto died surrounded by his family, who say they had not seen or heard from him until a few weeks ago, when they were told he had spent the last year in a coma. North Korea claimed the American had contracted botulism soon after his trial for stealing a propaganda sign from a hotel in 2015. On his arrival home, doctors who examined Otto said his brain had been deprived of oxygen.
Those tests did not reveal any evidence of active or chronic denervation, nor any repetitive stimulation that would suggest active botulism at this time.
While the Warmbier family finally have their son home, they are angry and want answers.
North Korea is a pariah regime. They're brutal and they're terroristic. We don't believe anything they say.
For now, exactly what happened during his time in North Korea remains a mystery.
The man arrested in connection with the terror attack outside of London's mosque has been named as 47-year-old Darren Osborne. He was taken into custody after a van hit a group of Muslims gathering after an evening prayer.
It was just after midnight in London, and the third attack using a vehicle in just 3 months. This time, the Muslim community was the target. After the van had crashed through worshippers marking the holy month of Ramadan, leaving 8 badly injured, men who'd been to late-night prayers found themselves wrestling the suspected van driver to the road.
When he was on ground, I asked him, why did you do that? Why? Innocent people. He goes, I want to kill Muslims.
After a prolonged struggle, the suspected driver was arrested. The imam had intervened to prevent further violence and the suspect had been handed over to some of the first police officers to arrive. The 47-year-old suspect is believed to be Darren Osborne, a father of 4 from Cardiff, a man unknown to MI5, but somebody who police are now investigating for any extremist or racist views he may have expressed in the past.
Can Britain take any more terror, Prime Minister? Prime Minister, what's your response?
By lunchtime, the Prime Minister had arrived close to the scene of the attack.
The terrible terrorist attack that took place last night was an evil act born out of hatred, and it has devastated a community.
In this year of terror, the Muslim community of North London was a new target, but the consequences of the violence were the same. 8 people are still in hospital this evening, some with potentially life-changing injuries.
London police and British media are being criticised for being slow to call the incident a terror attack. People across all religious backgrounds are calling the attack an example of the Islamic phobia thriving in the UK.
With temperatures and tensions rising in this multi-ethnic part of North London, the chairman of Finsbury Park Mosque offered words of unity.
An attack on one faith is an attack on all faith and communities.
But the events of last night have shattered the peace in North London.
Now no one feels safe. We can't go to the mosque without looking behind our backs.
The aftermath, when I was here talking to some of the people, there was a lot of anger and a lot of hostility because, once again, Muslims have fallen victim to another terrorist attack. We've allowed in this country for Islamophobia to grow and to thrive.
Police have confirmed.
Communities Secretary Sajid Javid came to visit the crime scene. As he spoke to reporters, he was interrupted by an emotional Muslim mother.
As a Muslim, how do I keep my son and I safe? Because we don't feel safe at the moment. I didn't even want to send him to school.
Well, first of all, I'm a Muslim. I have children, and I know many members of the community across Britain that will express a very similar feeling to what you've just said.
Sajid Javid tried to offer some consolation. Other faith leaders argue that if Muslims are being asked to help in the fight against radical extremism, then the least they deserve is fairness when they become the victims.
I think Islamophobia probably has lurked below the surface for a while. And I think sometimes incidents like this happen and it brings it to the surface. And I think the community leaders have a real responsibility to speak out and say, this is not acceptable.
Those community leaders will now play a central role as people in North London respond to this latest terror attack.
Sky Sports is next. We'll have news on netball and AFL. Stay with us.
Sky Sports.
Welcome to Chukai Sports. In netball, wins for Vepunama Rebels and Sparrows capped off a night of intensity in the Port Moresby netball competition last night. With weeks remaining until the season's end, the rivalry continued and its stages turned into a heated affair. Vepunama were looking at restarting their campaign and faced off against Mona.
Beginning with the Tier 2, Mona were under no impression that this would be an easy task. Winless since the start of the campaign, they faced a tough assignment against Vepunama. Both sides off the back of losses in last week's round 3 opener, this match was to determine a shot at the finals. Alurigo Opina at wing defense for Vepunama, combining well with centre and captain Barbara Arivusu to creative effect. Vepunama winning by the narrowest of margins, 45-42.
Yeah, I think tiring. I think most girls picked out in the last quarter. And we had a lot of ball security as well. I think maybe in the third quarter we saw the margin and we probably took them lightly in the fourth quarter, and that's how we. Yeah.
In the other Tier 2 encounter, it was a dominant display by the City Pharmacy Rebels in a fired-up encounter with Anafonsa Raukele. On more than one occasion, umpire Ani Yamo had to settle the match down. Junior Pepe Serena Ovia was outstanding in goal as the match ended with the Rebels 45 to Raukeles 34. Captain Lua Rickes happy with the outcome.
In 2-2, we're currently leading, but then we're not going to be comfortable. Take it easy because the teams, it's like every weekend they're improving, so it's good to see that the Tier 2 teams are also picking up, especially Mona and Belpunama and also Raukele. Yeah.
The competition will take a 2-week break before resuming. Jeremy Moggy, National TV Sports.
To the PNG mixed and men's netball competition, basketballers dominated the men's match between Kamuna Saints and Calden. Faster paced than the women's game, Saints turned on this style late in the third quarter to seal a 14-11 victory. In the other men's match, Vepunama 1 and 2 faced off. While in the mixed division, Black Magic met Mona, Vepunama defeated Kakuyawa and Calden went up against Kamuna. In AFL, the train-on squads for both the men's and women's national teams will attend their first official training this Friday. From the 75 players selected, 60 will make it to the final squad. 30 men and 30 women who will represent PNG in the 2017 International Cup to be held in Melbourne, Australia.
This will be PNG's 6th International Cup participation since the inaugural in 2002. The women's team, the Flames, appear for the second time. A total of 75 players in the train-on squad, 45 men and 30 women, will start their first training session this Friday. They will compete for a spot in the next few weeks before final selection. The train-on squad brings together the best PNG has to offer in the country as well as in Australia, most of whom have come through AFL PNG's Talent Pathway program. While there's more room for participation, changes are expected to take place before a final contingent of 60 players will be finalised. 30 men and 30 women will travel to Melbourne, Australia in August. While the new national men's team will be playing to defend their 2014 Cup title, the women's team will be hoping to make it to this year's final. The PNG Mosquitoes, who are the current reigning champions, without a doubt a top contender, is looking forward to winning their back-to-back International Cup titles. In the past previous tournaments, PNG made it to all 5 finals, where the Mosquitoes lost the final to Ireland in 2002. It lost to New Zealand in 2005, defeated New Zealand in 2008, but were edged out by Ireland in 2011. Coming back with intense confidence and enthusiasm in 2014, PNG won their first premiership for the International Cup title against Ireland, who is now the defending champion for the 2017 International Cup title. The competition will be held from August 5th to 19th, 2017. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
Trukai Sports continues after the break with the launch of the Tri-Nation Series and rugby. Stay tuned for details.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. The Tri-Nations competition, which will feature Papua New Guinea, Fiji and Australia, was launched. The Tri-Nations match will be held in Suva later this year before the Rugby League World Cup.
Ceremony. Plenty of proud players.
The tournament will see Fiji take on PNG in the first of the Tri-Nations match. All matches will be 40 minutes long. Then Australia will play Papua New Guinea in the next 40-minute match. Fiji will then play Australia in the final encounter of the day. The match will be played on the 14th of October at the ANZ Stadium in Suva. Australia has shown a massive commitment to helping to grow the game in the Pacific Islands by taking part in the Tri-Series alongside Fiji and Papua New Guinea. In the last couple of years, the Pacific nations have shown their class in the annual Pacific Tests, highlighting the rivalry between the islands and the depth of talent in the Rugby League world. The Rugby League world is set to be treated to even more quality fixtures featuring the Pacific nations at this year's World Cup.
And Meade stops him scoring.
Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
Melbourne Storm halfback Cooper Cronk may hang up his boots after this season. He has agreed to be a specialist halves coach for the Storm if he retires. He planned to leave the club at the end of this season and move to Sydney to be closer to his family. A few NRL clubs are trying to convince Cronk, with the Storms offering him to miss the first 2 months of the season, the Knights letting him train 2 times a week if he moves to Newcastle, and the Sharks willing to let representative halfback James Maloney go if they could replace him with the Queensland star. The playmaker is yet to publicly announce if he will play on or retire. And that ends True Kai Sports. The weather details when we come back.
Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield. Worth doing with Dulux.
Looking at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in the southern region, partly cloudy with slight chances of light showers tonight and windy in Port Moresby, partly cloudy and windy in Daru and Alotau, becoming cloudy with chances of light to moderate showers in Kerema and Popondetta. In the Mamasa region, becoming cloudy with chances of light to moderate showers in Lae, Wewak and Vanimo, and partly cloudy with slight chances of light to moderate showers tonight in Medang. In the New Guinea Islands region, mostly fine in Lorengau and Kavieng, partly cloudy in Kokopo, Rabaul and Kimbe, and becoming cloudy with a chance of rain showers tonight in Buka. And in the Highlands region, partly cloudy, then morning fog expected in Mount Hagen, and becoming cloudy with chances of light to moderate showers, then morning fog in Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield. Worth doing with Dulux.
And that's the news this Tuesday, the 20th of June 2017. We continue our election program, Your Vote 2017, with Neville Choi and journalist Titi Gabi after the news. From the news team, pleasant viewing. Good night.